Okay, meet Shirley. Now, Shirley's biggest struggle with her hair is that
it's so thin and I don't like seeing my scalp so much.
But I showed her how to take her hair from this to this in under 30 minutes. This is how you take your hair and go, okay, we've done everything we can. Now we are working with the most dense version of your hair right now. And I'm gonna show you too, and it's actually a very simple 4-step process. And usually I find that people address one of these, maybe two, and they're not getting the results. They don't end up getting their hair to make it look thick enough. They get frustrated, it still feels thin. It's because they don't know these other 3 points, or maybe they've heard about them and they're not doing them, and they don't recognize how all of these things need to be working together to get the best results. So I'm gonna walk you through all of this process so you can actually get results that you feel good about. And I wanna say a quick thank you to Alloy for sponsoring this video. What is the most frustrating area that you see, where you see it the most? Okay, right in the crown area, right back here?
Yeah, and I think maybe I have a cowlick somewhere back here too.
You do. And the first one is the internal factor. We need to try to start getting that hair that you're losing to stop falling out, and in actuality, start to regrow. Now, here's the good part. In many cases, this is very possible. I see it all the time where your hair kind of starts to thin. There's female pattern baldness, there's a bunch of different reasons. Mm-hmm. And so what we can do is kind of address those things. We can kind of work towards those. So let me explain Minoxidil, because this is really important. And this is actually what I would recommend anyway, that people at minimum know about this availability, but also look into it to see if it is right for you. There are 2 different kinds of forms of Minoxidil. There's oral and then there's topical. I tried the topical. The reason that I don't personally like topical for most people, but especially thin, fine hair, it is so specific what products we use, right? And what tools we use. We don't have the luxury of damaging it just to get the style. When I used topical, I was not a fan because you either use it in the morning or you use it at night. Use it in the morning, then you're mixing it with your other products.
Right.
And it's a gel foam kind of stuff. It can get very gummy. It can feel very sticky in the hair. And it often changes the way that the volumizing products that you're trying to use to get the shape react.
Makes sense.
Or then you do your hair without Minoxidil, you do everything, you get it good, and then at night, that means you have to use Minoxidil at night. So then you put it on and it basically re-wets your hair, and you either have to restyle it then, which means you're using more heat, or you let it dry, wait till the morning, and you're still restyling it again. So I switched over to oral. This is before I started taking it. Okay, so that was about 5 months ago. And this is yesterday.
Wow.
It's a total difference, right? So like it can absolutely work. I mean,
it's great. And it's different seeing, the pictures on TV. Oh, look how much this works.
Yeah.
As opposed to seeing it on your phone.
It's great. It's one thing you take in the morning or at night.
Yeah.
You're done with it.
Yeah.
And your hair start to grow. It's way easier. It's definitely worth looking into. My wife actually started using a company called Alloy. Have you ever heard of Alloy?
No.
So they use low dose oral Minoxidil, which is important because it minimizes the potential of hair growing in random areas, right? Where you don't want hair. You just hop on, fill out the form, right? The questionnaire. They go through it. It's only low dose. You have a doctor that you can talk to anytime. They send it to your door. It's done. I'll put in the description as well as the pinned comment a link that you can use so you can find out more. If you use that, or when you use that link, use Justin10 because you'll save $10 on it. So use that code. Okay, so now we're actually starting to get your hair back on track in terms of starting it to get thicker. But this could be a 5 or 6 month process before you really start to see the results that something like a low dose Minoxidil can actually create for you. And I know that you want to see results right now. And I did promise you to make it look a lot thicker in 30 minutes. What is the absolute shortest and just how high this goes that you would feel comfortable?
I need to have something down here.
Okay. Does that feel, whoa, that is way too short if it was like that? Does it feel like that is too dramatic? Or does it feel like, no, that doesn't seem like that short at all?
I guess it'd be okay. I don't really know.
Okay, but it doesn't feel scalped, do you, or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. We have to address the ends because the ends of your hair, if they look thin, everything is going to look thin, and it's not going to support any sort of style or shape that we cut or style into your hair. There's going to be a point where if you look at the back of somebody's head, yours included, that as it gets longer, it's going to start looking thinner. And the thinner that those ends look, the less those ends are going to support any kind of internal shape, any sort of layering or anything like that. So generally speaking, that if we want it to look denser, thicker as a whole, we want to get that length up to as short as we can get it, as close to that line. Mm-hmm. Now, the caveat here is we need to understand where somebody's comfortable, right? So for instance, let's imagine that your hair was to here and it started looking thin right here. And you're like, I don't care. I don't want to take my hair this length because even if it looked thick at this length, I would feel so uncomfortable. It's right here. I would feel comfortable at this length. Then we try to get it to that length, right? But we try to get it as close to here as possible. Like if I turn you around, you still have a lot of density down here at the line. So there's nothing thin down here that we need to take off to bring you back to where it looks thick. Then it's a case of just, okay, well then how short do we feel comfortable? Like where are the boundaries? And we've tried to find those. So once we have the ends taken up to as close as possible to where it looks dense, then we move into the next factor. And the next factor that we have to address is the mid shaft. This is what most people do. Say, well, I'm trying to create volume. So I'm gonna give the hair bend. I'm gonna use product. I'm gonna style the mid shaft into a shape that makes me feel like I've got more volume and therefore thicker hair.
That's what I'm trying to do.
That's what everybody does. Most people will try to address this as the whole fix to the entirety of the problem. That is okay, but if there's no foundation in there and we don't take these other steps into consideration, you just look like you have big, thin hair. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, while this is an important part of the process, it's simply part. And by itself, it's definitely not gonna be enough to get the kind of results that you really wanna see. So then we wanted to figure out, well, how do we get that part to have the illusion of more density? And more often than not, that does come from layering.
I think it looks better. Like when I pull it back off my face. It does. I think it looks better.
The husband says it does too, right? When you bring it back like this and you leave the fullness in here, it actually adds a little bit more fullness, right? But when you take that back off your face and take some of that out, all of a sudden now it starts to like accentuate your jaw structure more. It lifts everything up. It really opens you up a lot more. So it's really gonna do all of the things necessary, right? We're addressing point number one of like trying to figure out how we get hair long-term to grow back in, right? Through the, like oral minoxidil. And then we address point number two, which is the lengths, addressing all that. We're addressing the mid shaft. So we're 3 steps into the 4-step process. And the last one we can only do after it's dry. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the heat protectant, and I want that in your hair wet. So you'll get a shower, you towel blot or whatever, immediately put that and the other product in. We need to get them in as soon as possible, and we wanna get them in when your hair is equally damp all over.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with the Pureology. I've been using this forever. I talk all about it, but it's gonna give us a little bit of conditioning quality as well as gonna give us some heat protection. Now I'm using my hands to kind of comb it through, okay? In a perfect world, what you would do is you would take either a comb or a brush and you would actually comb it through so that you make sure that you get somewhat equal distribution. Yeah. Then again, now while it's still wet, I wanna use a product. I typically say overuse it to see what happens. I eat my words with that on this product. So this is the Stay High Mousse from Redmond, okay? It comes out like a gel, foams up like a mousse. That's how much we'll use, okay? So I'm gonna work this through everywhere. Now this is another thing that you could comb this through your hair with a brush or with a comb, okay? That would not be a bad thing for you. I actually like to take the modifiers off for this port. And then sometimes I'll use a brush just to kind of get the hair out of the way, okay? Same kind of thing, we're just kind of doing this. And just like you're doing, we're just gonna kind of comb this through, right? Back here, I'm just turning circles because it's gonna help that to lay under a little bit. So just like always.
So do you put it on the hottest setting or?
I usually have this on the hottest setting because again, this specific dryer isn't as hot as a lot of them. It's using a lot of air pressure. It doesn't get as hot as a lot of them. If I hold it out here, like put your hand out there.
It feels cold right now.
Exactly, right? It doesn't feel like it's hot. And it doesn't, but it gets hair dry like that. I'm not gonna do anything to it. We're gonna round brush it, but I'm not gonna do anything to it on purpose. This is our worst case scenario. Like, oh my gosh, what did we just do? But you can see how you're already getting lift out of that. Now what's gonna happen when we actually go in and do what we should do, which is add a round brush to the situation and like get some real shape out of it. You're just gonna do everything under and up, just like you've been doing. The very front, we're gonna do this way, okay? Kind of forward like that. And even a little bit this direction, okay? So you could even take this over here or this to this side because you've got a pretty strong cowlick the other way, and we're still gonna get a lot of control this way. So you're still gonna get height and control out of it. The section that you have in the back that parts is, well, it's right here right now, okay? And what it wants to do is it's a very strong growth pattern to do this. Okay, it really wants to grow. So what I did is I round brushed this direction. So the brush was like this, okay? So all I did is I took this, put this in the hair. Instead of doing it this way, I actually grabbed it and brought all of this direction.
Okay.
So that when this falls down, see how it doesn't part as much?
Yeah.
But you see how all of these things, they're all starting to work together? And if we miss one of those pieces, if we miss the length and we leave it too long, this doesn't matter. If we don't do this bend or don't dry it in that way and don't use the product, the length doesn't matter. They have to be all combined to create a result where you actually get denser looking hair. Okay, so then I'll just kind of take this, I lay this down, and then just use my fingers to kind of pull down pieces like, maybe I want a little bit of softness right there. Maybe I want this to, you know, have some softness right there. And I just kind of use my fingers to just kind of comb it around. I always will do this. So this is kind of a key. The very end, take your hands, and do this at home. So I go like this. When I do this, see how it brings all this hair forward? Okay. Now, see the difference?
Oh, yeah.
When I do that?
Huge.
So this wraps the eye around here and it lifts that eye, right? Which is super important. Back here, where I want this to be less contrived because I want some texture because it's gonna help them pull this stuff. There I go in and I just literally just kind of scrunch it up. And that's usually where it ends up looking like you see straight through it, okay? Which takes us into the final part of this, the roots. Now, this is kind of I don't want to say my secret sauce, but this is what I find that most people don't do, and it makes by far the biggest difference immediately in hair. Nobody ever talks about this, is hair fibers.
I bought one of those little things like that.
The applicators are perfect, right?
I haven't been using it.
Okay, and now here's the question. Why haven't you been using it?
I don't know.
Okay, if we can make the scalp look denser, we are immediately making the hair look thicker. If I split this around where your hair splits and you see that, I'm gonna hold this back, and that's where I wanna start applying some of this, okay? I'm gonna start just basically going in here underneath and just adding some of these fibers in. And I'm using a pretty fair amount. I don't know if you can hear how many times it's pumping, right?
I can see.
Okay, so this is gonna help two different ways. One, it's gonna hide those roots. It doesn't look fake, you don't notice it. So this is gonna wash out tomorrow or the next time you shampoo. Now your hair, even right now, do you see that? You can see it off. You don't even, one, it doesn't look, you don't see the scalp. But two, because you don't see the scalp, you don't see split. The concern was not that it was splitting. The concern is that it's splitting and you saw scalp when it was split. But if you splits and you don't see scalp, then it's not as big of a concern that it splits. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But do you see your scalp in there? This is how you take your hair and go, okay, we've done everything we can. Now we are working with the most dense version of your hair right now. And you see before and after, there's no comparison. So now we have a process in place. We're addressing the fact that your hair was falling out and we're trying to minimize the amount that it falls out and actually regrow and re-thicken some of that hair. We've addressed the ends to make them look as thick and strong as possible. We've given your hair volume in the midshaft, a little bit larger in the shape where we want it to be to create the illusion of more density. And most importantly, we've covered up any of the scalp that you're seeing so that your roots look dense as well. So at this point, while you're waiting for your hair to fill in and start to regrow, it's gonna look thick every day in that process. And eventually, what you're gonna notice is that you just have to use less fibers. And there you go. So again, I want to say a big thank you to Aloe for sponsoring this video. And there is a link in the description where you can find out more about low-dose minoxidil from Aloe. And don't forget, when you use that link in the description, make sure that you use the code Justin10 so that you can save $10. And I appreciate you hanging out today. And if you liked this video, you're also gonna love this video. So you go over there. I'll see you over there. Take care now. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. I felt like almost like a night show host where they lean back in their chair after they're done, right? But it was not that cool because, well.